Hello everyone, my name is Edriel Aquino,
And I'm Daniel Mabagos.
and we are research assistants under the advisement of Dr. Kumar Patil at the University of Guam. And today we are presenting on the role of tensile strength of roots in preventing slope failures. Guam, as a tropical island in the Western Pacific, experienced heavy rainfalls causing rainfall-induced slope failures in the southern part of the island. Although soil is known to be strong in compression, it is weak in tension. On the other hand, roots, when they undergo shearing in soil, go into tension and offer tensile strength, which increases the shear strength of the soil root matrix. Through Root 1979 soil estimation model, we can evaluate the soil reinforcement that roots provide for slope stabilization. Now, due to climate change, plants are an eco-friendlier solution. So by conducting this research, we hope to encourage the use of vegetation as a sustainable and economical option in slope failure prevention. Now, moving on to the objectives of this research. Before we began root testing, we evaluated the shear strength parameters of soil needed, such as the effective cohesion and the effective friction angle of soil. Due to its varying root diameters, we decided to use the Pandanus textorius plant for our research. We conducted a series of tensile tests on its roots to determine the tensile strength of the Pandanus plant. We also measured the root area ratio, or RAR, for the plant. The RAR is a biomass concentration as a function of soil depth. We use this parameter to estimate the root contribution to soil strength. We also plan to demonstrate the difference in shear strength offered by soil with and without roots.
To evaluate the shear strength parameters needed, we conducted 3 direct shear tests at 50, 100, and 150 kilopascal normal stress to obtain the effective cohesion and effective friction angle. For this research, we extracted 3 undisturbed soil samples from telephoto hill slopes, which are prone to slope failures. Once we got to the lab, we prepared the 3 soil samples for a direct shear test. And on the left, you can see what the direct shear test machine looks like. After each test, we obtain a graph from the DSC machine, forming a series of shear displacement curves from testing the 3 samples. We also obtained the peak values of failure stresses and plot them in a shear stress versus normal stress plane to obtain the Moore Collins failure envelope that gives us the effective cohesion, which is a y-intercept in the graph, and the effective friction angle, which is the slope with the best fit length. We found that the effective soil cohesion to be 181.88 pounds per square foot, and the friction angle is 32 degrees. These 2 parameters will be used for calculating the added cohesion of roots.
For root tensile testing, we begin by removing the root system from the plant and wash it off with stones and soil. Then after drying the roots, we chose the roots that are at least 25 centimeters in length from the root system. And with the caliper and the ruler, we measured the root diameter and length. We tied each end of the root to the top and bottom knobs of the tensile tester and measured the tensile length of the root. Then we began testing by turning the handle at a relatively slow motion, maintaining our speed as we conduct the experiment. Once the root snapped at the center of the root, we stopped turning the handle and recorded by the tensile force.
Now to do the root area ratio. Before testing, we measured the vertical orthogonal projection of the root of the Pandanus plant to be used as a reference area. Then, we uprooted the plant from the soil and washed off the soil and stones off the roots carefully. We individually counted the roots at the depth at which they occur and recorded the root area ratio values at 5 centimeter depth increments. Then, diameters of roots intersecting the soil profile were taken individually by a vernier caliper. For calculating our results, we use these following equations. Equation 1 is used to calculate T, root tensile strength in MPa, where F max is the maximum force in newtons, and capital D is in root diameter in millimeters. The root area ratio can be calculated from equation 2, where small a in millimeters squared is a cross-sectional area of root, and capital A in millimeters squared is a reference area.
The predicted shear strength increase from a full mobilization of root tensile strength is given by equation 3, where theta is the angle of shear distortion in the shear zone, V is the soil friction angle, and TR is the total mobilized tensile stress of roots fibers per unit area of soil. Theta can be taken as 45 degrees and soil friction angle as 32 degrees for telefocal soils. TR can be calculated from equation 4, where T is root tensile stress in MPa, small a is the root cross-sectional area in meters squared, and capital A is the reference area of soil meters squared. And finally, the increased soil shear strength can be expressed as an additional cohesion as per equation 5, where C prime is soil cohesion without roots in kPa, capital C in kPa is the cohesion of soil with roots, and CR in kPa is an increase in shear strength. The tensile strength and diameter relationship for the Pendanus sectorius is shown in figure 12. As you can see from the curve form in the graph, the tensile strength decreases with increasing root diameter, and it follows the power law equation of the form f of x equals ax to the power k, which we can use to predict the strength of the root.
From the root area ratio plot, it is observed that the values of RER show great variability with depth. The maximum RER values were located within 20 centimeters or 0.2 meters of the Pendanus plant, with the maximum rooting depth of 50 centimeters or 0.5 meters.
In figure 14, the maximum reinforcement effect exerted by the Pendanus roots is around 10 kPa, which provide a 15% increase into the soil without roots. Similar to the RER distribution, reinforcement effect decreases with depth. As mentioned earlier, the maximum RER values were located at 0.2 meters depth, with a maximum rooting depth of 0.5 meters. In general, vegetations growing along hill slopes have shallow roots, therefore unable to reinforce the soils to stop landslides occurring at 1 meter depth. Thus, vegetation capable of growing deep roots more than 1 meter should be introduced to reduce the frequency of shallow landslides occurrences. These vegetations should have high values of RER. To further evaluate reinforcement offered by root in soil stabilization, we are looking to test more plant species such as shrubs, ferns, and grasses with varying root diameters and depths for tensile strength and root area ratio. We also plan to do a measurement of the resistance of root structure to be pulled out of the ground, also known as a pull-out test, and compare the results to the root tensile strength measured in the laboratory, so that we can analyze how root tensile strength affects soil shear strength.
Before ending our presentation, we would like to acknowledge the National Sea Grant College Program of the United States Department of Commerce, which is sponsored by the University of Guam Sea Grant from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. We would also like to give a special thanks to Megan Cadahay for assisting us in the earlier stages in operating the DST. That is the end of our presentation. Thank you for watching.